Hi, my name is Sara Maia. I'm Portuguese and I born in Lisbon. My family is my center as painting is my essence. We are a family of five, and recently in 2020 me and my husband and our dog moved to a Portuguese island in the middle of Atlantic called Flores. More or less monthly, I go to the mainland to work in projects and exhibitions. I'm a lucky woman, and my husband is a fantastic chef. And we wanted to move from city, so we moved to Flores to be close to nature and create a project around that. My father was an art teacher, and my mother was a children teacher. My father was a great painter and poet too. My mother is a poetic and creative soul as well. I was also influenced by my stepfather, that was an amazing painter, and our house were very often full of artists. So I was infected by this creative atmosphere. Since I was a child, my family took me to museums, and I always felt attracted to drawing and painting. And it always been a joy to do it, so I keep doing, and it is as important as breathing. Portugal changed a lot in the last decades, and I grew up with that change. I was lucky because 50 years ago, only the privileged people could dream to be an artist or study or to dream to be whatever they want to be. That change also creates a generation that is more conscious about their rights, and the frontiers are definitely more open to the world. I started very young. I went to art school when I was 15 years old, and I did love it. It was a very open-minded environment, very international. Arco is an art school based in Lisbon, and it was an important training, quite practical in many senses. I finished when I was 19. I started working immediately with galleries, and that gave me a lot of different experience. I met amazing artists, and I also traveled with my work, and that gave me the sense to belong to a community of creative people. The impact that background brought me was to be free to express myself in this way, to communicate through painting. I found it out very powerful to do it, and I found out I had an effect on people, and I really enjoyed that. The most important theme in my work is to make questions. I'm always exhausting questioning myself about everything. The focus of my work is about human beings, how we relate to each other, our desires, emotions. I'm also very attentive to the sense of justice, rational versus irrational, because I think we are part animal in instinct, and at the same time, we live in a sophisticated way. And sometimes this balance, in my opinion, doesn't work. I was raised in a family that part was very conservative, and the other part, I guess, more artistic and creative. And that contrast, I guess, I can say was positive because sometimes it was such a different ways of thinking that I always have to find my own opinion. At the same time, never find the final truth. And I guess that reflects in my work. My trigger to paint is to talk about those endless dialogues with myself. And those dialogues produce images, open narratives, endless stories. I would say endless stories. I think I always did that when I was a child and keep doing as an adult with another level of consciousness. My biggest influence in terms of painting are all the painters that talk about human beings and his emotions, such as Lucian Freud, Goya, Paulo Rego, Alice Neal, Marlene Dumas, Frida Kahlo, and recently Hilma af Klint. In fact, so many others. The advantage of living in a social media is that I'm all the time finding out amazing artists. And you don't need to be in the center of the world to get the information. I'm also so inspired by movies, books, music, lyrics, poems, dance, like those like Pina Bausch. But in fact, my biggest influence, I can say, it's life itself. Every bit of living takes me to draw and paint in the end. The biggest challenge of being an artist to get a balance between time of creation and being constantly painting. When we work with galleries and art fairs and many exhibitions, the time to create gets shorter, and to create something, it needs time. Of course, it depends on the artist, but in my point of view, it takes a while to get there. Requires study, practice, and a lot of work to get something that produces an impact on the others. I always work a lot and I can paint and draw fast. But if you don't take the time, it's easy to start repeating the same ideas and take them to exhaustion, which can be great if you want to lead yourself to explore intensely one idea, but it doesn't take you to new ones, new ideas. Another challenge, I believe, is to focus mainly on work. Because being an artist in our days means to be secretary, public relations, to have good social skills, agent and promoter to yourself, and so on. A good gallery can help a lot on that, but for me, what's really important is the quality of the work, that what should speak for yourself. My advice to my younger self is to focus on what is really important, the work itself. Enjoy the ride and put your heart and soul in whatever you do. I used to say, I go where I'm loved, and that's the truth. If I look back, each exhibition leads me to another and is a kind of flowing process of communication. I did try some unconventional mediums. My work is basically in two dimensions, but I made some site specifics and installations in Marseille, Paris, Manchester, Dublin, and also in Portugal or Porto that I called music boxes. And those music boxes were an installation or a site specific. So I tried to create an environment with drawings and sound. I really love to travel, and sometimes traveling with canvas is not that easy, so I have to be practical in those cases. I use more materials like paper because they are easier to transport, or sometimes I just transport myself with my brushes and Indian ink in my pocket. I did another project where I drew a mural in a wonderful restaurant in Lisbon called Tasca Baldraca. I also participate in an art residency in Barcelona that still is an artisanal paper factory from the 17th centuries that also work as a museum and art residency. I made my own paper and was a duet with another artist, Victoria Rabal. And we clipped and drew. We made a large triptych on a thick artisanal paper. This year, me and my husband were working in Mexico. We were invited to be in an artistic residency in Oaxaca by the architects João Boto and Duarte Ramirez. Oaxaca is a vibrant city in the middle of the mountains, an important encounter of artists that work together and use techniques such as engraving and lithography. I did lithography and monography. Lithography, in fact, consists of drawing in printmaking process, which you draw in a flat stone and affixed by means of chemical reaction, and monotype in metal, and is just only one print. Because we are traveling, and cardboard was the medium I choose, and I guess paper is my favorite material to paint on. Another medium I always love to work is tiles. The word in Portuguese for tiles is azulejos, and I have been working since I was very young. I work with a gallery based in Lisbon called Raton, and they invite artists to use tiles as a medium, which is a very important tradition in Portugal. The architecture in Lisbon is covered with those beautiful patterns, and it comes from the Arabic influence in Portugal. I always listen music. It is very important to get the rhythm to work, but what I listen depends on my concentration. Sometimes I need just instrumental because I get distracted with lyrics. But I also have some paintings that were based in lyrics, and lately I have been listening a lot of podcasts too. I can say what has been the best reaction to my work. My work talks about emotions, and those emotions I couldn't express in any other way but painting. I guess because I go deep into myself, I don't put any filters at all. It's an intense dialogue with myself first, and then can produce a dialogue with the ones that will see it. I've seen people crying, laughing, and most of all, they tell me stories. Those stories always tell me something about themselves, about their experience, their lives. So I guess I provoke emotions, and that's make me really happy. I never know what kind of emotions I will take when I'm painting. I don't think about it or if someone is going to like or dislike. First is a process entire to myself and then becomes a dialogue or not, which fortunately usually is a strong dialogue. When I was in Mexico, a lady was watching me painting and she told me, "Your painting is so real." And something I don't try to be is real or imitate the real. So I got thinking, what kind of real she was talking about. And she told me, "This is life." Somebody once told me that my paintings make people think. Besides the aesthetic pleasure, I would love that people feel and think, but above all, I can somehow communicate with them.